Imagine this. One of America's most recognized late-night talk show hosts is abruptly pulled off the air, not for poor ratings, not for budget cuts, but for words spoken in a single monologue. That is exactly what has happened to Jimmy Kimmel, and the controversy swirling around his suspension has sparked a storm over free speech, media independence, and political pressure. This raises a central question. Did ABC give in to pressure from Donald Trump and his allies? Or was this purely a corporate decision? In this deep dive, we'll untangle what happened, who was involved, and what it means for the future of broadcasting. Jimmy Kimmel has been a late-night fixture on ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live since 2003, known for comedy skits, celebrity interviews, and in recent years, sharp political commentary. He has openly criticized Donald Trump during and after Trump's presidency, and his political segments often go viral. Charlie Kirk, meanwhile, is a conservative activist and founder of Turning Point USA, a right-wing youth organization. He was recently killed in a highly publicized shooting, sparking polarized reactions across the political spectrum. At the same time, the US media landscape is deeply polarized. Networks operate under the oversight of the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, which grants broadcast licenses and enforces public interest obligations. While the FCC typically avoids content-based regulation, critics have long worried that political appointees could use licensing as leverage to pressure networks. Against this backdrop, Kimmel delivered a monologue that would ignite a nationwide firestorm. On September 15, 2025, Kimmel opened his show with commentary on the killing of Charlie Kirk. He mocked conservative figures who, he said, were desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, using everything they can to score political points from it. He went further, criticizing Donald Trump's response, saying it resembled how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, suggesting Trump showed performative grief rather than genuine concern. While Kimmel framed this as satire and political critique, conservative commentators immediately condemned the remarks as vile, insensitive, and exploitative of a tragedy. Within hours, social media erupted. Conservative influencers demanded ABC take action. Right-wing outlets framed the segment as proof of liberal media bias and disrespect for the dead. The backlash quickly jumped from social media outrage to powerful institutional response, and that is where the controversy deepened. Within 24 hours, FCC Chairman Brendan Carr, a Trump appointee, publicly blasted Kimmel's monologue. On a podcast with conservative commentator Benny Johnson, Carr called the remarks truly sick and questioned whether ABC and its affiliates were meeting their public interest obligations as federally licensed broadcasters. Carr said, "When broadcasters use the public airwaves, they accept duties to serve the community, and this crosses the line." Though Carr stopped short of announcing formal action, his comments carried implicit weight. The FCC controls whether stations keep their licenses. That same day, 2 of ABC's largest affiliate station groups, Nexstar Media Group and Sinclair Broadcast Group, made dramatic moves. Nexstar announced it would stop airing Jimmy Kimmel Live on its ABC affiliates, saying Kimmel's remarks were offensive and insensitive to their communities. Sinclair followed, demanding Kimmel issue a public apology and donate to Turning Point USA. When no such apology came, Sinclair stations pulled the show from their late-night schedules. This was pivotal. Affiliates own and operate local ABC stations across the country, and if they refuse to air a network program, that program effectively loses access to millions of households. By September 17th, ABC and its parent company Disney announced that Jimmy Kimmel Live was being indefinitely suspended. The show was pulled from the network schedule without any on-air explanation. From a chain of events that began with a 7-minute monologue, a full-blown corporate and political crisis had erupted, and ABC's response appeared to align with what critics of Trump feared most: giving in to political pressure. The central accusation now dominating headlines is that ABC bowed to Trump-aligned pressure, sacrificing editorial independence to protect its business and regulatory standing. Here's the case supporters of this view make. First, they point to the FCC's role. The FCC does not usually police content, yet Carr's remarks about public interest obligations came just as political allies of Trump were calling for Kimmel's firing. The implication was clear. Stations that aired his show could face license challenges. Second, they note Trump's personal involvement. Within hours of ABC's announcement, Trump posted on Truth Social praising Kimmel's removal, calling him untalented, claiming he had terrible ratings, and suggesting networks that spread lies about the president should not get to use our airwaves. This raised fears that Trump and his allies were actively encouraging networks to punish critical voices. Third, there's the affiliate revolt. Nexstar and Sinclair own dozens of ABC affiliates. Both companies lean conservative in editorial stance and have historically supported Trump-friendly programming. Their coordinated decision to drop Kimmel after Carr's remarks looked to many like part of a pressure campaign orchestrated by political allies. Finally, critics argue that ABC's timing shows capitulation. The network had defended Kimmel during past controversies. This time, however, after just 2 days of political uproar, ABC swiftly suspended him. They gave no detailed explanation, fueling suspicion that fear of regulatory retaliation, not just business considerations, drove the decision. Media watchdogs, free speech groups like the ACLU, and several prominent journalists have framed this as a textbook case of government-induced censorship. While no law forced ABC's hand, implicit threats from regulators and powerful political actors created conditions where the network felt it had no choice. As media scholar Jane Hall of American University put it in Politico, this is the definition of chilling effect. It's not direct censorship, it's coercion through fear. While critics say ABC bowed to political pressure, others argue this interpretation oversimplifies a complex decision. Business realities may have played a decisive role. Executives at ABC and parent company Disney reportedly feared a prolonged advertiser exodus. According to reporting from Katie Couric Media, several major sponsors contacted ABC privately expressing concern about brand risk after Kimmel's remarks went viral. Advertisers are highly sensitive to controversy, particularly involving death or politics. A single boycott campaign can cost millions. Affiliate economics also matter. Affiliates like Nexstar and Sinclair control the distribution of ABC shows to local markets. When they announced they would stop airing Jimmy Kimmel Live, the show instantly lost a huge chunk of its reach. Networks depend on affiliates to carry programming. Without them, the economics collapse. Disney may have calculated that once key affiliates walked away, keeping Kimmel on the air was no longer viable, regardless of political pressure. Ratings questions further complicate the narrative. Although Kimmel has been competitive in late-night ratings, his show has seen some erosion among younger demographics in recent years. Trump himself amplified this claim, calling Kimmel a ratings disaster. ABC hasn't confirmed any ratings-based motive, but some executives may have seen the controversy as an opportunity to quietly move on from an expensive show facing demographic headwinds. Finally, ABC might argue it was protecting community standards. Broadcast television, unlike cable or streaming, still operates under stricter content rules. ABC could claim it acted out of a duty to its audience, particularly after affiliate feedback that local viewers found Kimmel's tone inappropriate so soon after a high-profile killing. All of this raises an alternative explanation. ABC suspended Kimmel not primarily because of Trump, but because of business and reputational risk amplified by a political firestorm. That's not necessarily less troubling, but it complicates the claim that this was simply political censorship. The suspension has triggered fierce debate among legal experts and free speech advocates over what, if anything, the government can. The FCC's unusual move, FCC Chair Brendan Carr's remarks are central here. He didn't announce enforcement action, but said Kimmel's remarks were inconsistent with public interest obligations. Legal scholars note this is unusual. FCC leaders almost never comment on individual broadcast content precisely to avoid chilling speech. ACLU and legal scholars push back. The ACLU issued a statement warning that the FCC cannot threaten license action based on political speech without violating the First Amendment Columbia law. Professor Jamal Green called it dangerously close to government censorship via intimidation. Could Kimmel sue? Possibly. Though legal experts say it would be challenging, he'd need to prove that the government's threats directly caused ABC to act. That kind of coercion case is rare, but not unprecedented. Courts have sometimes found First Amendment violations where government officials threatened companies over speech they disliked. broader legal precedent. Historically, the Supreme Court has been wary of government interference in editorial content. In cases like FCC versus League of Women Voters, 1984, the court ruled the government may not condition broadcast funding on controlling content. Critics argue Carr's statements risk crossing that same constitutional line. Bottom line, this isn't just about Kimmel. It's a legal test case for how far government can go in influencing media speech. This controversy has sent shockwaves through the media world, not only for what it says about politics, but what it might mean for the future of journalism, satire, and entertainment. Chilling effect on political satire, late-night comedy, has long served as a cultural pressure valve. If networks start punishing hosts for controversial jokes about political figures, creators may self-censor to avoid risking their jobs. That could hollow out one of TV's few remaining spaces for pointed political commentary. Media independence under threat, ABC's decision has fueled fears that corporate media outlets can be pressured by government officials, not through direct censorship, but through regulatory intimidation. Critics worry this could embolden future administrations to target other critical voices, knowing that even implied threats can be enough to scare networks. Impact on network trust and credibility. Many viewers now question whether ABC and Disney can remain independent from political influence. This perception could damage their reputation, especially if audiences see the network as bowing to whichever party holds power. Setting a precedent. If political pressure can silence a major network host, smaller outlets may be even more vulnerable. Local stations, newspapers, or independent podcasts could be chilled into silence, fearing regulatory or advertiser retaliation. In short, this isn't just about one show. It's about the norms that protect a free press. Several key questions remain unresolved and could fuel future developments or even more controversy. Was there behind-the-scenes coordination between the FCC, conservative media figures, and affiliate executives to push Kimmel off the air? No proof has emerged, but the timing has raised suspicion among media watchdogs. Are legal challenges coming? Some reports suggest free speech groups are exploring lawsuits alleging government coercion. Will Kimmel return? ABC hasn't confirmed whether this is a permanent removal or a temporary suspension. There's speculation about contract buyouts or moving Kimmel to streaming-only formats to avoid FCC rules. Could this spark congressional hearings? Some lawmakers, mostly Democrats, have hinted at investigating whether the FCC overstepped its authority. Are other late-night hosts at risk? Stephen Colbert, Seth Meyers, and John Oliver have all expressed solidarity with Kimmel. If networks fear regulatory blowback, they may rein in political content across the genre. If even some of these angles develop, this controversy could grow into a landmark case about political power and press freedom. So, did ABC give in to Trump? The answer is complex. The evidence shows real political pressure. FCC officials hinted at regulatory consequences, affiliates with conservative leanings revolted, and Trump himself cheered Kimmel's downfall. But there were also business pressures, advertisers panicking, affiliates refusing to air the show, and ratings considerations. ABC may have acted less out of ideology and more out of fear of political retaliation, financial damage, and legal battles. Still, fear is a powerful tool. And if fear alone can push a network to silence one of its most famous hosts, it signals something larger, that the line between government influence and editorial freedom may be thinner than we thought. What happens next? Whether Kimmel returns, whether lawsuits emerge, whether the FCC faces pushback, will shape not just one show's future, but the boundaries of political speech on American television. This is more than just a late-night controversy. It's a test of who controls the public conversation: corporations, politicians, or the people watching at home.